Hello again everyone and welcome back to Skyblock News. I'm your host Derailious and today we're going to be going over some major changes on the Alpha network, including the buffing of the majority of the Kuudra armors. On top of that, we're going to be going over a little bit of a Mountaintop leak, although I'm going to set your expectations, it's nothing too crazy. Without any further ado though, let's launch right into this. So in terms of the changes that we're going to be talking about today on the Alpha network, we're going to be heading over to the forum post as there is a lot of information here. But I want to start off with something different that they've kind of done recently, or at least the Hypixel team has been trying out, and I think it's a really good idea. These are basically like community notes in the Hypixel forums, where you can just jump to certain pieces of information that have been added from a developer. And I really like these. These are great for showing players, we're listening, here's what we want to do, and here are some future changes. We'll get more into what this says later, but for now we're going to go over the day one changes. Before we continue, I just want to say, if you are interested in buying anything off of the Hypixel store, make sure you use code RAIL for 5% off your order. Also, right now, if you spend $100 on the Hypixel store in terms of gems, you will get this Gem Power Orb skin along with your order. Now, I have thoughts about this that we'll go over at the end of the video, but I guess if you're interested in buying a lot of gems or you're someone who does so already, make sure to use code RAIL as it really does help out. Without any further ado though, let's get back to the video. Alrighty, so starting off here with Crimson Armor, a lot of people were really worried that Crimson Armor was just way weaker, it wasn't going to be useful at all, and the admins did agree and they wanted to change it. So here's what they've done. They've made it so Swipe does double damage the first time it swipes a mob, it can proc multiple times on the same mob, and also the Swipe multiplier now scales off of two things, so what your armor tier is and how many crimson pieces that you're wearing. So as you can see here, for example, if you have 4 out of 4 Crimson and it's all Infernal, then you're going to have a 3x multiplier. If you have 3 out of 4 Crimson and it's Fiery, you're going to have a 1.75x multiplier. They've balanced this around 3 out of 4 pieces, by the way, because players usually use things like the Warden Helmet, so keep that in mind as well. Generally, I really like this as it allows for players to experiment with different swipe builds and basically lets you do kind of whatever you want in terms of how you want to set up your setup. And also with the buffed first strike damage and Swipe now proccing on every hit, this makes Crimson Armor much stronger, especially when fighting boss mobs. It's not going to be doing the crazy amount of damage that it was previously, or at least before the alpha, but it is going to still be pretty strong. And to further make it strong, they've made some changes to some of the Blaze Slayer mobs. Basically what they've done here is that they've lowered the health of both the Smoldering Blaze and the Millennia Blaze from 4 million to 2 million and 20 million to 12 million respectively, and the amount of combat XP you get from them has been increased from 240 to 400 and from 660 to 1200, which is quite a major improvement. This should also allow players to one-tap the blazes at decent levels of investment, and the amount of Smoldering Blazes required to spawn the Infernal Demon Lord has been decreased by around 40%, which I really do like. Generally what this means is that Blaze Slayer's efficiency should not be worse than it was before the alpha, and it should be as good if not better than it was previously. For Terror Armor, the stack gain is now standardized at a 0.2 second cooldown regardless of the amount of Terror pieces that you're wearing. The damage per stack has been reworked to be based off of both your amount of pieces and armor tier, like the Crimson Armor. This is to discourage players from mix and matching their sets for hybrid stacks and the best efficiency. So at 4/4 Terror, and if it's Infernal, you're going to have a 15 times multiplier. And if you have 2 out of 4 Terror, for example, and it's Fiery, it's going to be a 4.25x multiplier. These are still pretty strong, and they've also buffed the side arrow damage as well, increasing it across the board. At Infernal, it's 60%, at Basic, it's 20%, and it goes up by 10 for every tier in the middle. Aurora Armor is next, and they fixed the missiles damage not being increased by ability damage, they fixed the missiles sometimes not firing as many as they should, and the base damage has been increased from 4 to 5,000. This also will allow you to hit bosses multiple times with the same missiles, which is really nice. Previously there was an issue where if you wanted to hit a boss and you had 5 missiles, only one of them would actually hit. That has been fixed. Basically what this means is that your damage should be way higher, about 1.7x as high, so 70% as a buff. I think this is pretty good. Aurora was already in a pretty good spot, I'm going to be real. It's already one of the strongest setups because of Mage being so powerful, and this just puts it even higher, so I really do like it. On top of that, for people who are still a little worried about Terra Armor, keep in mind that yesterday they made a change to where Kuudra has 25% reduced health in general, so if you're worried about your damage being a little lower, that should kind of be, a middle ground for you. Although I'm going to be real, nothing related to Terra Armor here seems like a nerf, neither with Aurora, and the same thing goes for Crimson. All of these sets have been buffed, which I'm really happy to see. In terms of their other changes and their to-do list, they made the dojo's area boundary a lot more lenient. They're going to buff trophy fish rates. They're going to make some changes to the Crimson Isle Bestiary, notably to mini-bosses and Jobus, and they're going to do some fervor damage scaling, as fervor has been pretty much left out of this. There's also this apology section here where they talk about Crimson Swipe. Basically, they believed that Crimson Swipe was the sole reason for Slayer 1-taps. That was not the case, and they want to make some changes in the future. Notably, they want to cap Burning Vengeance. This is kind of their current solution for Slayer 1-taps at the moment. And they do want Slayer 1-taps to be out of the game because I'm going to be honest, they're completely overpowered, but they don't want to make Crimson Swipe useless at the same time. To go over those little community note things at the top of the forum post, there are a few interesting things here. Notably, they're still collecting feedback in terms of the rates of certain trophy fishes. So if you want to leave your thoughts on this thread, please do so. They want your feedback, so make sure you check that out. I really do appreciate them asking for this. In terms of other stuff though, there is this other section here which I think is pretty interesting, related to Kuudra Armor Soulbinding, and also it being in the museum. So what they eventually want to do, seemingly, is allow you to donate a cheaper, unupgraded set to replace and unsoulbind your own set. However, it's not in the scope of this update, it's not going to be coming out anytime soon, it takes a lot of development work, a lot of testing, so keep that in mind. But it is something that they're looking at, and they know a lot of players are upset that they're changing around this armor set so much, but you still have yours in the museum, so you can't sell it or change it around like that. They also have some other minor things here. Notably, they state here that they would lower the amount of kills to avoid Gloom Seraph spawn, but that would also buff the mage rate, so they don't really know what to do with that. They're just looking at future changes and what they can potentially do. Next up, I kind of briefly want to talk about this. This has gotten a little bit of hate in terms of a lot of people. It's the Black Friday sale at Hypixel, and there's this new powered orb skin that people are not happy about. Basically what this is if you spend $100 on the Hypixel store, you will get this skin alongside your order at no additional cost. But the problem is the original cost is $100, and that's very expensive. This skin is also limited time. It will never be coming back. So people, obviously, want the skin, and they're spending quite a bit of money in order to get it. Now keep in mind, you're also getting $100 worth of gems with this, so it's not like, you're not going to be able to get anything else out of this. But people are just a little upset. I'm personally very iffy on this. On the one hand, a lot of games do way worse than what Hypixel does. Hypixel is not really known for being particularly awful about things like pay to win. It's not a gacha game. There's no polls or anything like that. There's no monthly membership in order to be able to play the game at all. There's things like ranks, sure, but most of those are one time anyway. On the other hand, though, I don't think anyone would be complaining about this nearly as hard if we had gotten the foraging update this year, if we had gotten the Mountaintop already, if we had gotten some major update to get people excited. And I don't love that they're promoting this while also we don't know when the foraging update is going to drop. Or while they're saying things like, we're going to have 2025 packed with content. Is that like developer speak? Is that like higher up speak for them to say, we have a lot of things planned, so make sure you buy this now so you can have the benefits next year? You know what I mean? I know it's a little cynical and a little silly at this point, but I just personally don't love this, and I would love to hear your thoughts down below. And I'm put in kind of a weird spot with this because obviously I benefit when people, buy these things. I need people to at least to a degree buy these things in order to, pay off college and stuff like that. So it's kind of an awkward situation. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Let's have a dialogue about this because I am interested, and I apologize if I appear a little tone deaf. It's just like very difficult to navigate these situations because of my circumstances, and I hope you can understand what I mean by that. So yeah, let's move on. For our last little segment, this one is the tiny little leak that I talked about in the beginning of the video. We have Time Dio putting in the mountain time charm. Well, now we know that there's going to be a time charm at the top of the mountain, shockingly, I know. Once again, this isn't the biggest leak. This happened on the server. It was just him testing. But it's cool to see, like, someone testing an update that isn't out yet, and seeing that at least some of the content is in the game. Like, not for us to play, but it's there. So that, to me, says that this isn't that far away from being on the main server. And also, the fact that they're doing this type of internal testing means that we may not see an alpha for this update, which I think a lot of people would like. I think a lot of people didn't like that the rift dropped and everyone had already known, like, everything about it. So this might be cool to see. I could be totally off base here. There could still be an alpha for it. We really just have no idea. But I'm excited for the Mountaintop, and here's a Mountaintop image, I suppose. Overall, a lack of communication has been the biggest problem at Hypixel for a little while now, and I'm going to be real, they are making strides to improve it, at least on the forums. The new community note system is really nice, allowing players to see what context they may have missed in the conversations, and I'm excited to see where they take it. Hopefully it becomes a more utilized system. Overall, though, I do have worries about things like the Black Friday sale, and I think player sentiment right now is pretty low, so hopefully we can see some major information about the foraging update or a huge update in the near future. I do think that the changes on the Alpha Network with regard to the Kuudra armor, though, is pretty solid, and I think players are going to be much happier about it than they would be a few days ago. At the end of the day, though, my name's Derailious. Thank you so much for watching this video till the end, and look to the future, fellas, because I will see you then.